Hey guys, just released a video on the Japan channel, and I know I'm going to get questions on it because recently we've been making videos with a panoramic view out of the front of the car that have been reasonably popular. People have been enjoying those views of the countryside as we drive around, and just released one on the Japan channel that doesn't have the panoramic view. It's just got this view of the bad head, of the ugly old head. So I know people are going to be asking why. I'll tell you why. I made a video on this channel recently talking about technology and saying how I thought that technology was 90% amazing and 10% not there yet, 10% no good, and a whole heap of people who love their technology got all emotional about it and said, you know, technology's amazing and it's perfect, you know. But as an example of the technology being 90% amazing and 10% rubbish, I bought a GoPro Hero 2 camera, which is supposed to be the best, you know. They're used in sports and you know, motorsports and surfing and all sorts of action type activities, because they're supposed to be reliable and, you know, give a good picture, and they're small and they're light and they're good to be used for action type stuff. So I specifically bought one because I'd heard all this, and on their website they have all this information about how strong they are and about how you can, you know, they've got all these mountings and things so that you can use it in the car. They're used for motorsports all the time. So I spent a few $100s and bought the motorsports edition with all the fittings and so on for the car, you know, and specifically so that we could get scenes of, you know, Japanese countryside, and also knowing that we'll be able to use it in the aeroplane as well to give you some good scenery from the aeroplane as we fly around Japan. So that was the plan, and got the camera and I've been using it, as you've seen. But the problem is, not long after we got it, occasionally I'd try to turn it on, it wouldn't turn on. And it happened a few times, it just wouldn't turn on. And then, you know, the next day you try it, it does turn on. So I went onto their website and had a look at their FAQs, at their, you know, typical website business. You know, you got to go to the FAQ and it says contact us, but, you know, very hard to actually contact anybody. You keep getting sent back to the FAQ. And in the FAQ, it says, yes, you know, occasionally it won't turn on. And the solution is to take out the memory card and to remove the battery and then put the battery back in and then connect it to a computer. Which means in a circumstance like today, where I happen to be getting into the car to go somewhere, and I turn on the camera and it just doesn't turn on. I try and turn on the camera, it doesn't turn on. And, you know, I don't have a computer to connect to in the car, you know. And recently the same thing happened. We went to another place where I wanted to get some footage for you guys, and I went to turn the camera on, it wouldn't turn on. So their solution is to connect it to a computer, and I've found that if I do that, that works sometimes, but it doesn't work other times. It randomly seems to solve the problem, and other times it doesn't, and then the next day you try and use the camera and it works. So it's a random problem. But the problem is their solution requires a computer, and yet this camera is billed as being a sports camera for sports and for action, which means that the other people that are out jumping on surfboards and skiing down mountains and driving racing cars and all these other people that are using it for sports don't have a computer with them either. And you can't recapture. Like if I go out to the airport and I've rented the aeroplane for the afternoon, I'm going to go for a fly, and I try and turn on the camera so I can show you guys the scenery over Japan. If it doesn't turn on, I'm still going flying, and you guys will just never see the footage. So it's really disappointing, and it's a classic example. As you've seen, when the camera works, the images are excellent. You know, they really are excellent images. But you know, having a piece of equipment like that works 90% of the time and doesn't work 10% of the time is sort of worthless to me. really. I'd really like my money back and go buy another camera, because that 10% is really annoying. You know, when you need it, you know, you're about to do something really, really important or really exciting, and you really want to get footage of it, and the camera doesn't turn on, what do you do? So really disappointing, guys. So this video is to, first of all, explain that's what's going on. The other disappointing thing was that when I researched this and I googled GoPro Hero 2 not turning on, and I found stuff all over the internet on forums going back 18 months. So in other words, this problem has been a problem for at least 18 months, and these guys are still selling the camera with the same fault, because I only bought this one a few weeks ago. So it's been 18 months, they've had this problem for at least 18 months, probably longer for all I know, and yet they're still selling the camera with this fault, and they haven't fixed it. They've still got the same fault that it's had for the last 18 months, and they're not telling us, which I find quite amazing, that they can know the camera has a fault, and they still sell it to us without telling us, hey look, you know, 10% of the time there's a good chance this camera will fail, and it's a common fault. Search it for yourself and you'll see it's a really common fault. And they're not telling us, they just sell it to us, and then after you've bought it, when you have the problem, you go back to their fault page and, oh yes, that's a common fault, you know, take the battery out, take the memory card and the battery out, and plug it into a computer. You know, that's no good to me at all when I'm standing next to the aeroplane, or when I'm climbing into the car, or when someone's climbing onto a surfboard or getting onto a set of skis. So I found that pretty annoying. I was pretty pissed off when I found that out, that it's not a recent problem. It's, you know, an ongoing problem for at least 18 months. They know that they've got the problem, and they're still selling the equipment knowing that it's faulty. And I'm sure they're not all faulty, but if you look on the internet, look, if you search this, you'll see it's not a rare fault, it's a really common fault. And they're not saying, oh, it's terrible, we'll replace it for you, which they should be. They're saying, oh, this is how you solve it. But that's how you have to solve it 10% of the time, is you have to go and connect to a computer. It doesn't solve it permanently. It solves it at that particular time, and then you use it, you know, 3 or 4 or 5 times and it works, and then you go to use it again, it doesn't work, and you got to go back and find a computer again, plug back into a computer again to solve it again. So it's an ongoing problem. So really annoying. So the reason I made this video is, first of all, I know a lot of people are going to say, where's that great view out the front of the car? Well, you'll probably get that again sometime. When the camera decides to work again, you'll probably get that view again. The other reason I made this video was to tell you guys, don't buy one, because it's that unreliability it just makes the whole thing pointless. You know, 90% excellent, you know, 90% of the time it's an excellent camera that will give you excellent footage, and the 10% of the time it's going to let you down. You're going to be saying, oh, I'm going to go do this really exciting thing, I'll get this on footage, I'll get this on video, and you go turn the camera on, doesn't turn on. Really disappointing, really frustrating. So my advice would be, until they solve this problem, don't buy one. You know, until they've solved it and they don't have this problem anymore, don't buy one, go buy something else. There's lots of other small sports cameras around. GoPro, I bought the GoPro because it had a reputation for being good. Unfortunately, I didn't search faults. When I researched, I searched, you know, what you can use it for, and all I looked at was all the positive stuff, with all the sample footage. There's some on YouTube as well, you know, it's probably popped up next to this video, in fact, because it's related video. But you know, there's lots on YouTube of action video taken around the place with the GoPro. It's all very impressive, but unfortunately I should have searched GoPro fault and found out what was actually, you know, the problem with it. So that's why I'm telling you guys, because I hadn't seen any videos on YouTube talking about how bad it was. I think they're actually a sponsor. I think they're a YouTube sponsor, and they've got their own channel on YouTube. So that's why YouTube's dominated with positive stuff about the GoPro. So here's the downside: 90% excellent, 10% total crap. If they fix it, or they solve it or replace it with one that doesn't play up, I'll tell you. But so far, all I've got from their website is, you know, go and find a computer and plug into a computer. So 90% excellent, 10% total crap. More videos on this camera coming soon.